I want to make sure we remember all of the victims' names. Soon Park, Hyun Grant, Soon Ja Kim, Young Yi, Xiao Chit Tan, Dao Yu Feng, Delana Ashley Yuan, Paul Andre Michaels. Their death will not be in vain. They will forever be a symbol of the day that Asian American communities and allies come together to say, enough is enough.
Thank you and welcome. My name is Yimin Zhu, President of Chinese Service Center in St. Louis. On behalf of the volunteers from the Chinese Education and Culture Center, the Chinese Service Center, I'd like to acknowledge all the hard work that all our partner organizations have put into make this event possible. In these challenging times, when Asian community across U.S. struggle to make sense of these senseless acts of violence against our most vulnerable, more than ever, we need to stand together, united in our voice and action, and that's why we are here. St. Louis City and County have the largest Asian American population in Missouri. I myself came to St. Louis in 1987. My wife and I raised our 2 kids right here. I received my PhD from WashU, and in fact, all 4 of us went to WashU and have 6 WashU degrees. Think all of the tuitions. And we paid, we sent away. That is the story. So many Asian American families here. We work hard, invest in our children, we build our business, we volunteer at community events, yet we continue to struggle with fitting here. We continue to be seen and treated as perpetual foreigner. When the COVID-19 struck, our Chinese community, rallied together with other Asian community to fundraise for PPE and for supporting our St. Louis frontline workers. Many here donate to the campaign, deliver meals and masks with us. We did not cause any trouble, but we want to be part of the solution. We reached over $300,000 with the campaign and donate hundreds of thousands of masks and meals. Imagine how dejected and frustrated we felt when we realized that our community was being blamed for the virus and our youth are being teased and even harassed in their school for being Asian. I have been active as a member of St. Louis Chinese community for decades. Today, feel like turning point of our Asian community. Let us make sure that 8 lives are not lost in line. Let us affirm to each other that here in St. Louis, the Asian community will stand united in our fight against hate, discrimination, and violence. Unite we must be if we wanted to effect change. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jill Shoup, State Senator, and it's an honor to be here with you tonight, even though it is a night of grief and sadness. But together, we can make it a time of hope and perseverance and a coming together of those of us who will continue to work toward peace and understanding in a country that can and must be better for all of us. For those of you here tonight who are Chinese Americans, I understand we are celebrating the Year of the Ox. Honesty, diligence, dependability, strength, and determination are among the qualities needed now, today, to move us forward together. Our children are watching. Our children are learning, and we will set the examples of strength and resilience by standing together, recognizing that while culture and race and religion are part of what makes us unique and special, that joining in solidarity as one race, as the human race, is what gives us goodness and life and strength. Today, we know once again that thoughts and prayers are not enough. We need strength and determination and action, like joining together here tonight. We need diligence to stand up to those who would harm us or our brothers or sisters. We are family. I am here with you today because I am you and you are me. We walk together. None of us is alone. And when we are able, we will walk closer together, hand in hand and arm in arm, to make it clear that our need for each other can and must overcome the will of those who spew hate in this, our precious world. In the words of Anne Frank during the Holocaust, how wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world. Together, we will work for safety and good health. And in Chinese, and I hope I'm saying it correctly, Shanti Jian Kong. Thank you.
Thank you. Like all of you, I'm deeply saddened by this week's attack in Atlanta, where 8 people lost their lives, including 6 women of Asian descent. And my heart goes out to all of those who were impacted by this senseless tragedy. This hateful event exposes an issue happening across the country: racism and xenophobia towards Asian and Asian American members of our community. Thank you. And data shows that anti-Asian attacks have been on the rise. Over the past years, friends and colleagues and leaders in our community have shared their feelings of helplessness and anger and their personal stories of discrimination with me. And I want to make it clear that discrimination of any kind and hate have no place in St. Louis County. Asian and anti-Asian discrimination and violence is unacceptable and can never be tolerated. Apathy and silence empower perpetrators, and violence is unacceptable and it can never be tolerated. Hate is a direct attack on the whole community's health. Intolerance cannot be tolerated, and we will not be defined by the ignorance of a few. Our community must come together and support one another in this difficult time. We must all stand in solidarity with our fellow Asian and Asian American citizens. To the thousands in the St. Louis community who are Asian or Asian American, know that Jenny and I stand in solidarity with you. We remember the victims of Tuesday's shooting and all who have suffered Asian American racism and xenophobia. And please know that I am committed to working to build a safer and more respectful and more equitable community for all. And I value the diversity of our community, and I want you to know that everyone is welcome in St. Louis County. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm a little loud, I know. So I'm not a typical quiet Asian, just to let you know that. So I appreciate seeing this crowd. Really brings tears to my heart, seriously. I'm saddened and I'm angry why this is happening to us. I'm saddened and I'm angry that it's increasing in our community. And I'm saddened and I'm angry that my mom She just called me about 2 weeks ago. She's afraid when she goes to grocery stores that somebody approaches her, how's she going to react to that? They're 80 and they're 70 years old. Imagine that to your parents. We should not live in that kind of fear, whether it's the elderly or the young or whoever. That's not right. So, but I'm glad we are here today for solidarity. I'm really happy to see everyone here. But work is not done. It's a continuous effort. Because we have to stop folks that always do this to us. We have to report it. We have to say something about it. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Anna Crossland, and I am the recently retired, long-tenured president of the International Institute of St. Louis. I stand here tonight, however, as an Asian American, as the daughter of a Japanese immigrant mother, and as someone who has had lifelong firsthand experience being othered in America. Several speakers this evening will be sharing gut-wrenching personal stories and those of others. So instead, I will share some thoughts about how such experiences have shaped my life's work and about where we as concerned individuals might begin to look for a path out of this mess in which America now finds itself. I've lived my life loving an America whose motto is E pluribus unum, out of many, one. Yet the dream of becoming one seems further out of reach now than at any point in my 70 years. How have we come to this point where rugged individualism and support for the common good are seemingly in conflict with each other over and over again? Where instead of valuing our many differences, a growing number of Americans now mistakenly believe that differences are what actually divide us. Let me quickly step back for a moment and offer three sets of anthropological differences: physical, cultural and social, and environmental. Physical differences, when we look around, we can see them. Those are about the color of our skin, the shape of our eyes, and yes, the natural color and texture of our hair. Social, cultural differences are the language we speak, religion, dress, and acquired characteristics that identify us as members of certain groups. And finally, environmental differences include our urban and rural upbringing, educational attainment, and different things like that. Anything in the latter two categories can be changed. However, none of us have control over our physical differences. Basically, we got what we were born with. I have a friend who's a fifth-generation Japanese American. His family's been in the United States for more than 100 years, and he frequently hears the statement that he speaks English so very well. How often does that happen to so many of us, huh? What's the hidden message here? Unfortunately, it's that in America, we are seen as foreigners first, regardless of how long we have lived here. So how do we begin to build bridges and become less connected? Well, it's about obviously standing up. It's about speaking out. It's about mindful interaction, education, and advocacy. It's about our community pressing for educational changes, inclusion in textbooks. It's about really being able to stand up and plan events and have meaningful connectedness among different people in the community. And it's about actively working to break down barriers. So, you know, it isn't always about other people, it's about us as well. We have been quiet for too long. It's now time to stand up, to run for office ourselves, to let our legislators know what we think, as opposed to continuing with the vision and image of who we've been for so long. We are the quiet Americans. We are the workers and the people that keep things going. But now we have to be more than that, because we have to share who we truly are deep down inside and be able to make America a place for all of us, not just for some. Thank you.
Hopeful evening, because it's hopeful because pleasant that so many people are here. I'm Peter Tao, youngest of 3 sons born here in St. Louis. To William and Ann, known to many of you as Tao Bobo, Tao Mama, I am a community leader. In 1947, a young 30-year-old student, William Tao, arrived in St. Louis after a 22-day trans-Pacific journey on a tanker ship from China, then a long train from San Francisco to Union Station. This student was my father, and the following year would arrive my mother and my oldest brother. To put in perspective, at that time in 1947, my father wrote of counting less than 10 Asian students at the university. It was Washington U. He thought there may only be a few hundred more of early stage immigrants in the city. From that time of their arrival, the Taos were there to support other Asians they knew or didn't know. You could see that their home was one of the first Asian community centers in St. Louis, where people, strangers, would gather for home-cooked meals, conversation, and more importantly, receive support and comfort from someone who looked like them. At these gatherings would be future business leaders, scientists, educators, activists, including the first Chinese American president of a major U.S. university and a later day lieutenant governor of Delaware. That was all through here through support. Because of this open communication, cooperation, and organizing, a meeting occurred here with a group of 20 community members with K.L. Wong, a leader on the National Front. My father was part of this group. From that meeting in 1972, the League of Chinese American was formed here. Formal representation had begun. As a point of reference, the 1970 census identifies only 741 foreign-born from China for the entire region. This is 1970. I never realized this as a kid growing up. This is the city, the county, St. Charles, and Jefferson County. That's the census. But soon thereafter, in 1973, OCA St. Louis was a proud founding chapter along with 3 others. And there are now 80 chapters in this country. That was the past, and a past that we cannot forget, nor those pioneers. But the time is now. Our Asian communities continue to come together such that we are now proudly AAPI proud. We are growing and we are stronger. We are more prepared with greater alliances. But more importantly, we have our very impressive younger generation engaged, many who are out here, many who I spoke with prior to this, as well as groups of color ready to take charge. So together, we need to stand up against hate. We are Americans.
Thank you. Like each of you, I'm horrified by what happened in Atlanta this week, and I stand with you to condemn this act of hatred and bigotry. I share your grief over the lives lost. This was a clear attack against Asian people. 8 murdered, 6 of them women. Asian American and Pacific Islanders have been sounding the alarm on the violence and hatred they have experienced over the past year and well before. And white people like me need to listen. We must also work to combat white supremacy and misogyny in all of its forms. This starts by naming it for what it is and speaking out. As a county councilwoman, I want you to know that I see each of you and so many Asian Americans that aren't here tonight. I'm grateful to be living and working with you, right here in this neighborhood. I commit to standing with you and showing up for you as my neighbors. Together, we can stop Asian hate.
Good evening. On behalf of the AACC, and all of our members, I would like to express our deepest condolences to the family, friends of the victims in Atlanta, and anybody who has experienced and been the victim of harassment and hatred around the country. These last several months, we have continued to see the increase in violence targeted at our community, and we cannot stand for it. This harassment not only affects us personally, but has a significant impact on our businesses. When the pandemic started, we came together to not only help each other, but help the St. Louis community as a whole. Our restaurants came together and donated food to the frontline workers. And now, their delivery drivers are being harassed. Our businesses and our business leaders and business owners, while they were trying to make ends meet, found a way to donate their time and their money to make masks and donate PPE equipment so that we could keep going as a community. And now these same businesses are being spray painted and being targeted. Just last week, I received a call from the St. Louis County Police to inform me that there is a rash of crime specifically targeted at Asian-owned businesses. It is this that must stop. This trend cannot continue. We must speak out, and we must protect each other, and we must protect ourselves. We call on all organizations, businesses, civic groups, and individuals, and specifically elected officials, to stand up and let your voice be heard. We cannot allow the continued use of racial terminology to place blame for the virus on hardworking St. Louisans. This is unacceptable, period. Our leaders and the broader community must stand together and say no. I'm going to close with a personal thought. Thong talked about the pain and anger he felt receiving a call from his mom. I experienced one of the hardest things that I've ever experienced as a parent 2 days ago. I was doing a TV interview on Channel 2 News, and my 9-year-old son came in when it was on. And he walked in and was so excited to see me on TV until he listened to the story. I close with this. His final question to me was, "Daddy, I'm scared. Why do people hate me?" Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank Councilwoman Clancy for allowing me to come into her district. That's protocol, as well as State Senator Jill Shoup. That's always protocol. Today, I am joining you to denounce the senseless killings in Georgia. Racism continues to raise its ugly head in our communities. I know that. I know what you feel. I feel your pain. We are better than that. Addressing these deplorable acts has to be intentional. We need to send a message that this type of behavior is unacceptable. Speaking up and shining light on these types of activities is the only way that we can tell the cowards no more. We have to shine a light on all forms of discrimination. This is 2021, and we are still looking for diversity. We are still looking for equity, and we are still looking for inclusion. So if we don't stop them now, when will it stop? When will the next group of citizens will have to stand up and talk about these activities? It will be another group, and another group, and another group. So I stand here today with you in solidarity from someone who is intimately knowledgeable about what you are going through today. I also want to share that my assistant, Maria Chappelle Nadal, says she is a community member. Her godmother and godfather have been very instrumental in shaping who she is and how she is in this community. So I say to you today, the fight is not...
Anybody who is suffering from the insidious racism that we all know is out there and systemic and affects almost everything that we are all involved with day to day. Listening to the stories tonight of some of the people here, it makes me think what our office, the Office of the Prosecuting Attorney, we are here to hear from the victims of crime, from the victims of hate, from the victims of harassment, from anybody suffering from a hate crime. Wesley has gone out of his way to build as many bridges with the community and with community partners as possible, and to make our office an open door to hear all of you and anybody that's suffering from anything, any type of a hate crime or harassment or racism when it rears its ugly head. Wesley made sure tonight, he said, you know, our office is, one more thing too, our office, you know, we're data driven. We are aware of the crime statistics that are out there. We're aware that anti-Asian hate crimes have increased by nearly 150% in 2020, and they're still on the rise. You know, we hear, I heard myself of when the shootings occurred, and then an official gets up and talks about the shootings and talks about somebody having a bad day and being a sex addict. And in our mind as prosecutors, we understand that that's part of a racist problem right there. Not understanding and realizing why something happens and calling it out for what it is, which basically is anti-Asian rhetoric for the past 4 years prior to this January that we all know was out there and on the rise. Wesley made a point to ask me to say this specifically, to make clear that any type of violence, harassment, hatred, or racism against our Asian brothers and sisters will not be tolerated, and is famously quoted, "Injustice everywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." Wesley Bell and our office, the entire office of the St. Louis County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, we stand with you, and if you ever need help with something that is being done to you, or if you hear something being done, any type of a threat, if you feel that you don't have an ear that's listening to you when you make a call for help, please call our office, because that's what our job is, to help you as much as we possibly can, and we take hate crimes very serious. If something comes to our office that's a hate crime, we're going to prosecute it and finish it to the end. Thank you very much.
First of all, thanks so much. And it's so moving to see all the Asian Americans in a short period of time, in a matter of 2-3 days, in unity. Thank you. We lost 8 lives. You heard many times, right? 6 of them are Asian females just trying to make a honest living, okay? They go to work. Sometimes they spend 3 days and nights at work to support their families. And when I talk about this, I'm actually getting a little emotional. I apologize. And 4 of them are Korean ladies. And the sources that told me that authorities has hard time to reach out to their families because some of them are in South Korea. So Korean consulate in Atlanta, Georgia, were considering preparing their deceased bodies to be shipped back to South Korea. We are all emotional and we're in shock, obviously. Now, my question to all of us is this. Now, where do we go from here? Okay, what do we do? We cannot just get emotional and protest all the time. So, do we need more policing? Okay, and of course, we heard many times, reporting and education is another way. And also, how do you get a better representation in the policy-making process? Okay. And the patterns we see against Asian Americans are pretty simple, especially since March of 2020. Insensitive languages, it starts all from insensitive languages, okay? They would think that, oh, I didn't mean anything. other than just insensitivity, but that leads to action, terrible actions. And that terrible actions will lead to tragedy that we have today. So we can start talking to our local representatives, state level, or federal level, or even county. And I did a little research. There's a bill called HR 908, still sitting in our federal house. And it's nothing but requires our public servant, public officials to condemn against anti-Asian discrimination. That's it. No budget required and no money is asked on this bill. However, this bill did not get a full support from both aisles in the House. Okay, think about that. Okay, so they cannot even pass a bill like this. Does not require any money. Okay, and this is simple as that. All right, anytime there's anti-Asian American discrimination, you should, as a public official, you should condemn it. Okay, it's a simple bill. They couldn't pass it. Okay, because why? I don't think we have enough voice in there. Okay, so this goes back to the question about if you see something, if you feel something, make sure report. Okay, it goes into statistics and make sure it gets onto their radar and we have our voices heard. And I don't want to make this too long. I'm going to say something just quick, closing my remarks. Okay, we are Asians. We are 23 million strong. And we are waking up. And we are all in one unity. Thank you.
I'm a little short, so I always have to adjust everything. I speak English, but I am Vietnamese. I speak English, but I'm Asian. I speak English because I'm an American. I'm an Asian American. I am saddened that we have to come together under these circumstances. However, I am more proud that we have. Tonight's vigil is not only to mourn the lost lives of Asians that have been hurt and abused or murdered due to xenophobic attacks, but also unite our Asian and all surrounding communities in solidarity. Your presence show that all traditional, cultural, and ethnic differences can be placed aside for a common goal, to make our voices heard loud, clear, and wide. I myself experienced racial instances and I have seen, witnessed, and have been called to many more in our communities. As you all know, the St. Louis Vietnamese community were one of the first communities who responded to the pandemic by hand sewing each mask, 5,000 of them, to donate to frontline workers and our surrounding political officers. Yes, Asians are taught to be silent. We are taught to obey, which we have done. We are taught to love, appreciate, and respect and honor our country. The country that gave us freedom, the United States of America. It's time that people of our country contribute and respect what we have and recognize us not only by the skin of the color of our skin or ethnicities, but by the patriotism we carry as Asian Americans. On behalf of the St. Louis Vietnamese community, we vow to stand in solidarity to condemn anti-Asian violence and racism. Thank you.
On behalf of the Asian community in St. Louis and the Korean American community that I am a part of, let me express my deepest gratitude for the privilege of serving as a voice to share the experiences of my fellow Asian American youth. Over the last year, the nation has seen a disturbing increase in hate crimes against the Asian community, and St. Louis is no exception. For young people who look like me, this hatred has always been present in our lives. As children, we were taught to respect each other's differences. Yet these unique qualities, which should be a source of pride for us, are turned into subjects of ridicule by ignorant people. From disrespecting our cuisine to mocking the sound of our names, these hateful comments are often said to be jokes by their perpetrators. Now, with the coronavirus, Asians face more extreme animosity than ever. Recently, the Asian American Civic Scholars, a St. Louis Asian youth group, held a poll about our youth experiences with racism here in St. Louis. Many of us are called extremely insensitive names that I do not want to repeat currently. These names are being called to us in school with no repercussions to our faces in school and online. We are told that we should not be happy because our people are to blame for spreading this virus to America. We are jeered at and bullied while they pull their eyes, mocking the accents of our parents and grandparents who sacrificed everything to come to America and offer a better life for their children. These are not jokes in any regard. They are racist and xenophobic remarks motivated by an irrational hatred that serves to victimize our innocent youth. Just as Mr. Koh said, these what they call innocent and insensitive comments, the same hate that inspires a man to murder, this same hate is being subjected to our children in schools in a different degree. And for the 72% of Asian youth in St. Louis that have encountered racist remarks, the 88% that feel overwhelmingly concerned about the increase of hate crimes, and the 40% that feel unsafe, even walking alone in public, these comments only continue to fuel their anxiety and fear. This rhetoric can manifest into more sinister forms of evil as well, leading a man to murder 8 innocent people, 6 of whom were Asian women, violence that is rooted in racism and misogyny. When I read the stories and look at the faces and families of these victims, I am sadly reminded of the people I hold closest to me in this community. Now more than ever, we need to stand strong and fight against the hate and discrimination that pervades our nation. There will always be those who seek to antagonize our communities, embracing hatred rather than humanity. In response, we as the Asian youth must use our voices not only to raise awareness and educate others, but to support each other in this difficult time. And this is for the sake of our elderly, for our parents, for us as the youth, and for future generations. And I hope that one day they can live in a place where they are not subject to these horrific comments and they can live as one. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being out here tonight to support, to show your support, and also thank you to all the distinguished guests as well. The men and women of the FBI, we offer our condolences to the families and friends of all the victims in Atlanta. Know that our FBI office in Atlanta is offering all resources and assistance needed by the local authorities that are leading the investigation there. We really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you for the organizers to invite the FBI to speak to you tonight. Again, my name is Rebecca Wu. I am the spokesperson for FBI St. Louis, but I also coordinate community outreach for our office. And over the years, I've had the opportunity to meet a number of the Asian American community leaders here. The head of FBI St. Louis, Special Agent in Charge, Richard Quinn, regrets that he cannot be here tonight. He's actually out of town at a previously scheduled event, but he asked me to please convey 2 important points. And number 1, it's the role of the FBI when it comes to investigating hate crimes. When it comes to criminal civil rights violations, that's the umbrella term. But under that umbrella, there are different types of criminal civil rights violations. And the FBI has made investigating hate crimes the top priority of that category. And the reason is because when someone commits a hate crime against an individual or a house of worship, it's not limited to just that victim. It's really an attack on an entire community. And because the FBI has made investigating hate crimes a priority, each of our 56 FBI field offices have dedicated special agents who specialize in investigating hate crimes. And joining me tonight is one of our special agents, Special Agent Matt Brumman. Matt, can you raise your hand? He's here tonight. If you have questions, please come up. We'll be up here after the vigil to answer any questions, if you would like to do that. And so while the FBI considers hate crimes or makes investigating hate crimes a top priority, the FBI also believes that hate crimes are underreported. And so here's the second important part. It's a call to action to all of you to please spread the word. If you are a victim of a hate crime, if you know of a victim of a hate crime, or if you've witnessed a hate crime, to please contact law enforcement. Now, contact your local police department first if the threat is still imminent. But once the situation has stabilized, to please contact the FBI. I'm hoping you all by now know the FBI tip line. It's 1-800-CALL-FBI. And don't worry about taking notes. We actually have handouts here at the table that you can come. So please come by the table after the vigil because we have handouts and information as well. The FBI is responsible for upholding the Constitution of the United States and to protect all American people. And when the FBI says all American people, it means every individual physically in this country. You do not have to be a citizen to be protected by the FBI. So when you call our 1-800-FBI number, and if you do not speak English, that is okay, because the FBI, we have translators who can help. So once again, thank you all for being here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Annyeonghaseyo. Good evening, everyone. My name is Judge Judy, not that one, Draper, and I am the Honorary Consul for the Republic of Korea. I won't talk long because I know we are close to the end. So first, I want to thank all of the organizers of the much-needed vigil tonight. Thank you also to Min Lu, who I understand is traveling, and Caroline Fan. It's great to see a lot of old friends and the speaker standing up for good. Great to see Senator Shoup and Sam Alton, who happens to work with my daughter, who's also a prosecutor in St. Louis County. Thank you to my husband, your Missouri Supreme Court Justice, for always supporting the Asian American community. As an honorary ambassador to the Republic of Korea, Korea shares the grief and mourns the recent killings in Atlanta of Asian American women for what appears to be a senseless and vile attack on Asian women. There have been 3,795, and probably more than that, Asian American hate incidents since last March of 2020, during when the pandemic first started, to February 28th of this year. 503 of those incidents have been from just this year, January to the end of February. 4 of the women, as you know, were Korean. As a biracial woman of Korean and African descent myself, I too have had the challenges of discrimination simply because of how I look. My first encounter of hate violence against an Asian woman was with my own mother when I was 8 years old in Sacramento, California. These hate crimes didn't just start with the pandemic. My mother and I were walking on the sidewalk hand in hand, and a group of children and young teenagers picked up rocks and threw them at my mom and me and screamed over and over, "Go back to China! Go back to China, you chinks!" That's what they said. I promised myself on that day that when I grew up, that I would protect my mother from such violence, since I was too small to help her at that time. There are approximately 119,000 Asian Americans living in Missouri, with the majority living right here in St. Louis. I am praying that Missouri does not become a center of attention for any kind of oppression or violence against any Asian American individual or communities. I thank you again, and let us all pray for healing and peace for the families who have lost their loved ones in Atlanta. Lastly, I am wearing a red poppy pin that my daughter Chelsea, who's a young prosecutor for the county, gave me. It's a symbol to remember those who lost their lives in conflicts around the world and those who have been killed as a result of terrorism. I hope all of you will find a poppy to honor and remember the Asian women who were violently killed. Thank you and stay safe.
Say thank you to all of the wonderful speakers and all of the stories and all of the stats. I hope you walk away knowing more than you did when you first came here. And I mean, the numbers grew as our speakers spoke. So this is absolutely wonderful that we're all here. I want to end the evening by saying the victim's name one more time. As I say their names, if your candle is not lit, please light them. If you don't have a lighter, a volunteer will come to you. Soon Park, Hyun Grant, Sunja Kim, Young Yi, Sao Chiet Tan, Dao Yu Feng, Delana Ashley Yan, Paul Andre Michaels. Please bow your head for a moment of silence in remembrance of the lost but never forgotten victims of the Atlanta shooting. We'll now have a moment of silence.